Emma finally convinced Mr. Hale to let her call a doctor. Reluctantly, like someone apologizing for becoming a problem. The tests did not take long. By 3 a.m., Emma already knew something was wrong from the silence alone. Doctors became quieter when the news was bad. Mr. Hale sat on the hospital bed, in one of the empty observation rooms, while snow continued falling outside the windows. He looked strangely calm, too calm. Emma stood near the doorway waiting for the doctor to leave. Finally, the room became silent again. Mr. Hale stared down at his hands for a long time. Then he gave a faint smile. "Well," he whispered, "that explains the chest pain." Emma felt anger rise suddenly inside her. Not at him, at the unfairness of it. "You should have come sooner." "I know." "You could have collapsed alone somewhere." Mr. Hale looked toward the snowy darkness outside. "I've been alone before." The sentence hurt more than Emma expected. She pulled a chair beside the bed and sat down heavily. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. Then Mr. Hale suddenly asked, "Did Miss Lorraine finish her Christmas book?" Emma blinked in disbelief. "You're seriously asking me that right now?" She was excited about the ending. Despite everything, Emma laughed weakly through tears. And for the first time in years, Mr. Hale laughed too. A real laugh. Small, tired, but real. Morning slowly approached beyond the windows. The hospital sky turned pale blue beneath the storm clouds. Emma noticed how exhausted he looked now. Older than ever. Fragile. And suddenly she realized something terrifying. The West Wing patients were waiting for him tonight. Like always. But tonight, he wouldn't be there. Mr. Hale seemed to realize it too. His eyes lowered quietly. "I should probably tell them." Emma looked at him carefully. "You matter to them." The old janitor smiled sadly. "That's the dangerous thing about kindness." "What do you mean?" He looked toward the hallway outside the room. "People start depending on your presence." Emma thought about all those nights. The stories, the books, the quiet voices saying good night through dark hospital rooms. And she understood. Mr. Hale hadn't just become part of the hospital. He had become part of people's loneliness, part of the thing helping them survive it. That morning before sunrise, Emma pushed Mr. Hale's wheelchair slowly through the West Wing. He insisted on seeing everyone, room by room, patient by patient. Miss Lorraine cried when she saw him. "You look terrible," she whispered weakly. Mr. Hale smiled. "I've looked terrible for years." She laughed softly through tears. He handed her the final book in the series they had been reading together. "You still owe me the ending," she said. "I know." In room 312, Mr. Bennett's bed now stood empty. Mr. Hale paused there longer than anywhere else, quietly staring at the untouched pillow, then finally whispered, "Goodbye, old friend." As dawn slowly approached, word quietly spread through the West Wing. Patients opened doors to wave at him. Some whispered thank you. Others simply watched silently from their beds. And for the first time since Emma had met him, people were finally seeing Mr. Hale clearly. Not as the strange old janitor, not as background noise in the hospital, but as someone who had carried kindness through the darkest hours of their lives. When they finally reached the end of the hallway, the first sunlight of Christmas morning touched the hospital window softly. Mr. Hale closed his tired eyes for a moment, then whispered something so quietly Emma almost missed it. "I think Lucy would have liked this morning." Mr. Hale never returned to work after Christmas. The hospital officially listed it as medical leave, but everyone in the West Wing understood the truth quietly. The night janitor who carried stories through lonely hallways was finally too tired to keep walking. For the first few nights after he left, the West Wing felt strangely empty. Patients asked about him constantly. Nurses spoke more softly. Even the hallways themselves seemed quieter somehow. Emma noticed it most around midnight. That was the hour people usually waited for the sound of squeaking cartwheels and turning book pages. Now there was only silence. 3 days later, Emma made a decision. At exactly 11:45 p.m., she walked into the West Wing carrying a stack of books in her arms. The patients looked surprised. Emma felt nervous immediately, more nervous than during any medical procedure she had ever done. Miss Lorraine smiled weakly from her bed. "You're late." The room laughed softly. Emma looked down at the book in her hands, then quietly opened to the first page. Her voice trembled a little at first, but slowly, the room relaxed. And for the first time, Emma finally understood how difficult Mr. Hale's work had really been. Not reading the words, holding the loneliness, night after night, room after room, story after story. She continued visiting the West Wing every night after that. Sometimes other nurses joined her. Occasionally even doctors stayed to listen. And little by little, something inside the hospital changed. People began spending more time with patients who had no visitors. Nurses sat longer beside beds. Staff members started learning patient names instead of room numbers. The West Wing no longer felt forgotten. All because one quiet old janitor had refused to let loneliness become normal. Then, near the end of January, Emma finally visited Mr. Hale. He lived alone in a tiny apartment above an old grocery store across town. The room looked simple, books everywhere, just like the storage room in the hospital. Mr. Hale sat near the window, beneath soft afternoon light, with a blanket resting across his knees. He looked weaker now, but peaceful. Emma handed him a small paper bag as she entered. "What's this?" "Too much sugar," she said. Inside was coffee. Mr. Hale laughed softly. Lucy would approve. For the next hour they talked quietly while snow drifted outside the apartment windows. Emma told him about the West Wing, about Miss Lorraine finishing her book, about nurses reading stories during night shifts now, about how the hospital somehow felt warmer than before. Mr. Hale listened silently, eyes shining slightly. Then Emma finally asked the question she had wanted to ask for weeks. "Why didn't you ever tell people what you were doing?" Mr. Hale looked out the window for a long moment, then answered gently, "Because kindness works best when it doesn't ask to be noticed." The apartment became quiet again. Emma glanced toward the shelves surrounding the room. Hundreds of stories, hundreds of nights, an entire life hidden quietly inside simple acts nobody had paid attention to. Then Mr. Hale suddenly spoke again. "You know what the strange thing is?" "What?" "When Lucy died." His voice softened. "I thought I had lost the only person I was supposed to care for." Snow drifted slowly outside the glass. But people keep needing each other. Emma felt tears gathering again. Mr. Hale smiled faintly toward the falling snow. "And maybe that's enough reason to stay kind." Several weeks later, Miss Lorraine passed away peacefully in her sleep. Emma attended the small funeral alone. No family came. No flowers arrived. But tucked carefully beside the old woman's hands inside the coffin was a worn hardcover book, the final story Mr. Hale had read to her. Inside the front cover, Emma found a handwritten note. "Thank you for making the nights feel shorter." Emma cried the entire drive home. Spring arrived slowly after that. Snow melted from the sidewalks. Hospital windows stayed open a little longer. And every now and then, late at night, Emma still caught herself listening for squeaking cartwheels in the hallway. But something had changed now. The West Wing was no longer silent, because stories still moved quietly from room to room, one person to another, just as Mr. Hale once carried them. And somewhere deep inside at St. Mary's Hospital, loneliness no longer felt quite as powerful as before.